Whatap ke afia tuai o talo Tonga. Atuene whatap wedi ki he Palestini ko e Tonga Chamber of Commerce. Before that atuene whatap ki he CEO e Chamber of Commerce. Whatap wat foki ki he kautak ngau e ko tope i kahi ngau e anga takta i ngahi private sectors. Pe pe foki ki ngau tolu ko tope mo tolu mo hanga fofonga i mai a mo ngahi business pa mo ngahi ngau e anga takta. Fugene whatap peni ki he tarikita e CERT Tonga pe mo toinga e timi ko e tota whaoha tu ko ni ko tu koro to kai pe e fini te u whahoko atu pe e tau ki prokalama ko ni ki e fini. This evening I would like to just call out the programs. I do know that you guys already had the programs. I will be doing the MC for this evening, and we'll start off with the opening prayer, and then we'll have the welcoming speech given by the CEO for the Chamber of Commerce, and then we'll give the opportunity to the Director for CERT Tonga, Saya Waipuna, to introduce the team and what we are actually coming here for. We'll just start off with opening prayer, and then we'll continue on. Korke tau roto. E doa mafi o mau whamalola he tia te koe, i he whangamari e koini, e whiawha kolo koini, to e whakatahata i mai e ki mau tolu, i he whakatawhare koini. Tuka e manake ne o tua ke whaiha ki o Karama Awareness Program, pia mo e toinga e ihe ai ki toinga kaunga ngau e koini, pia mo e ngahi business i tau taha e tua. Ma whatawanga pe aonga e whanki Karama me whanki me te mauha o wahewahe. Me toinga e nihi koe ni, ku ngā ke hane aonga, ki hon tokoni, ki hon malu, nau ngahi ngau e anga, me ngahi ngau whakateknolosi. Mau whawhitai toa e o tua e ahakoni, wa malo te maa whaofa koe ni. Mau kore ki whaitau kina me moe taha ko toa peu ki wharen, o mau e Palestini, Tonga Chamber, pe whoki ke CEO, pe whoki ka ki mau tolu ko toa peu, kau ngau e, ki nau tolu nau whafofonga i mai, ai ngahi ngau e tau taha, ngai private sectors. Mau whawhitai e toa e o tua, mau whamalo atu, whaitau kina mai moe taha ko toa peu i whareni. Ko e tua e mau lotu, me mau whawhitai i whai atu, ko whapeo ala ko siso, ko mau whamui. Amen. I whainga mai rewa koe ni, te u whawhai lewa e CEO koe ke Chamber of Commerce, laka i whanua, ke lawa mai ke whahako atu ai welcoming speech.
Welcome everybody. It's great to see a wide range of industries here this evening. I'd like to welcome you all here. Thank you for coming in spite of your busy schedules, in spite of the heat and the humidity, in spite of the coronavirus. I'd like to reassure you all that we got the green light from Ministry of Health to hold this event. We called them this morning and told them about the event and asked for their advice, and they said it was okay to go ahead. So thank you all for being here. Just a few words. I'm only supposed to welcome you all, and I've already done that, but I'd just like to say just a few more words. The internet is you know, without a doubt, one of the best resources that's available to us. And you know, it allows our businesses to grow, allows us to source supplies, allows us to source equipment, allows us to trade, and unfortunately it's also extremely dangerous, especially if we don't know how to protect ourselves and protect our businesses. So I'm grateful for the CERT team. I think a government's priority is their country's safety and security, and it's evident in the government here in Tonga, because they've established a computer emergency response team within the government to look after us, improve our cyber resilience, and I think that's all from me. I'd like to hand it over to Saya and his team to continue. Malo.
He ki whangamarele ma koe ni te o anga mai ke he tarekita ko ia CERT Tonga, na saia waipuna, ke ne whahane introduce atu ai timi mo hae mau ngau e whahoko, pia mo e hoko atu ke ngahi presentation o mlake mau whahoko.
Malo tukoro, pako kore ke u whaman malo ate ngai whatapu o whahoko. Ke ka kore mua whangamari ke u hoko atu ai whatongia koe ni I he Lefa Britannia. Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to represent the Honourable Minister for the Ministry of MEIDECC and the CEO in thanking the President and the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce in organizing this event. I would also like to thank you, the individual business owners and those from the private sector, in availing your time to participate in this evening's awareness program. We were advised to make this program informal, and please, if we can, from this point forward, if we can just relax and feel comfortable while we undertake this awareness program. The aim of this awareness program is to make you business owners and those in the private sector aware of the cyber threats that are out there, that are happening right here in Tonga. Previously, it might have been thought that these things only happen overseas, but these are things that we've seen happening right in the kingdom. As you're probably all aware, that once you put something online, the vulnerability that that those systems will have if they put it online in Auckland or New York or in the Western countries, your equipment or your computer system is vulnerable to the same cyber attacks that can happen overseas. So this program is to make you aware of this, and also how you can help minimize the risks and the impact of those cyber threats. And last but not least, is to develop, hopefully to have a relationship with us, so we can help you guys better protect yourselves and your business against cyber threats. The materials that we prepared for today will be relevant today, but going forward, it might not be enough. The criminals or the bad actors in cyberspace are always finding out new ways on how to counteract the safety mechanisms or the security mechanisms that we try and have in place. So I would like to apologize. We'll be using both English and Tongan, but if you have a question, a specific question that you think is not clear enough, please feel free to ask in English or Tongan. If I can please introduce my team, we're here today. The CERT team, there's only 3 of us. One of us is currently in Canberra on a work attachment, so there's only 2 of us, but we are fortunate enough that we have some volunteers. I would like to introduce Miranda Tohi. Probably most of you know Miranda. He used to be with Digicel, and he knows a lot of the private sector, and that's why we engaged him to help us carry out this awareness. I would also like to introduce Siu. Siu is a current student at the Christ University Pacific. We are thankful, and she's currently doing volunteer work with the CERT team. And as you met my colleague, Otokolo, and myself, my name is Saya Vaipuna. So without further ado, I would like to ask Miranda if he can first take us through the cyber threats that are there, especially here in Tonga. And then after that, I will ask you to probably walk us through some security tips that will help us minimize the risk. And then last but not least, I'll do a presentation of CERT Tonga, what we're all about and how we came to be established. Thank you.
Malo lele, and it's a privilege to be here. As the director of CERT introduced, my name is Miranda. I've been in the country for the last 10 years working in the telco industry, and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to see some familiar faces, but as the director said, we prepared for a Tongan presentation, but our heart is pumping because we are told we have to do it in English as well. But I'd like to thank Chamber and Commerce and also CERT for giving this opportunity for me to come and share or make us aware of what's happening here in Tonga. As the opening speech has highlighted, yeah, internet is a great resource for everyone to use, and we enjoy and have fun with that resources. Unfortunately, it comes with great risk. Pea ko tui mahalo ko e uhinga ia o kutau kau whakatahai I he whiawhini. And I will be talking about the cyber threats, and the other presenter will talk on how to mitigate on this topic. Most of the time, as we enjoy this internet resources, we tend to ignore the risk that comes with it, or say, oh, no, it's not here in Tonga. It's only happening in the States or Iran or wherever, but never comes here. But I believe some of you have come across something that is not normal to your routine, or something that is out of the ordinary that you sometimes question, because ai mea o ku hoko ki he interneti, because emaili, So, what are cyber threats? I think everyone has asked a question, and some of us have heard a lot of definition or hear from friends. They try to define cyber threats into their definition or understanding, but hopefully by the end of this program, we'll shed some lights on what really is cyber threats. But for the definition or whatever that we define today is purely from what we as an organization or the ministry, as you all are aware, CERT is under, or one of a department under the Ministry of MEIDECC, and their responsibility is, or their mandate is cyber security, which allow them to work with organizations outside of Tonga, and this definition that will be discussed today will be based on the working relationship with us and the international partners. And the second question is, what is threat actors? What are the motives for these people to actually do what they do? And what have we seen here in Tonga? As the director said or mentioned earlier, it also happened here. Have it gone to the extent of losing money or damage our reputation? Maybe, maybe not, but we'll cover that later. Most and majority of these attack or the threat that comes to our organization is they try and explore vulnerabilities of internet that you're using, or the system that you're using, or whatever that you use in our understanding or definition of a computer system. These people that we'll discuss later, or they look for those vulnerabilities. And if they find them, they will exploit them. What can we do with this? So at this very moment, maybe some of you own a system here in Tonga, or you are managing a system. So we start looking at, is that safe? So these people, from wherever they are locating or live, they explore those. And if they see a window for them to take over, they will. Whatever the intention is, whatever the motive is, but they will do. And for us, the end user, have no idea it happens, but it happens. Phishing or social engineering, these are words that you heard from people, but what does it really do? And these are, and some of you are very expert in the computer side of things and terminology, but if I may bring it to the simplest definition, these are ways that these people try to manipulate user like you and me to get what they need. Maybe for a good intention or bad intention, but these are ways, and how they build what they want are based on those bots, botnets. These are common command and control. These are stuff that we'll discuss further into details later on. And ransomware, I'm sure everyone have heard ransomware, but these are just their method of trying to get in and ruin our reputation or take something out or whatever they want to do. So what is a cyber threat? As I mentioned earlier on, when they explore something and they see vulnerability and they try and exploit it, their intention is just to damage information or computer system. Maybe in a way to ruin someone's profile or expose someone or an organization to the world. So that's their intention of a cyber threat. They try to alter the information or expose confidential information, and it happens. It happens in our daily life. It's just that we are not aware of it, or we just ignore it because it doesn't matter. I'm still driving in my car, I still get paid. But what behind the scene, it's something far worse than we can imagine. And these people are using the technology and of course the internet to come through ko nau waka maia ke nau hanga o whaia ngai ngau e whakatutamaki koe ni. So, and it's something that you don't even know. They are already in your computer, you just don't know yet. So these are the cyber threats. Someone that is using, or a group of organization or group of people using the technology and whatever is available there on the internet to do, as I said earlier on. So who are these type of people? So we should ask and we should be aware. It may be your neighbor. It may be your best colleague. It may be the one that you trust to manage your system. But who are these people? These are state-sponsored actor. Maybe it's too fancy and scary. But these are people that are paid very good money. Maybe they are paid more than the reserve money of Tonga in the reserve bank or something, or the money that is sitting at ANZ across the road. They pay good money for political purposes. And I think we all heard this, it's all in the movies, but it's not a movie anymore. It's actually happening here. For economic and military agendas. So these are one group of threat actors. Cyber criminal. I think everyone very familiar with this term. But what these are the group of people that they will do whatever it takes to gain money out of it. In whatever way they can do. It's just for them to get money out of it. I sometimes wish I can be one of them so that I just sit behind the keyboard and get my money. It's not, I'm not one of them, but just trying to bring the example closer. That's my profession. So these people are just doing it for the love of money. Hacktivists. I think this applies to everyone that is doing this. Motivation. Why are they doing this? Again, political. Oh, sorry, I didn't know these words. Again, political, social, religious, that motivate these people to do what they do. Insider threats. I think, in my own opinion, this is something that we really need to think of as an insider threat. What are the motives behind these guys? Maybe to gain power. Maybe to get money out of it. But the majority of the motives of these guys based on their emotions. And insider, they are in 3 different groups. Someone is inside your organization or someone inside a business maybe not happy with the boss and will expose information. Why? Because he has full access to everything that this business does. Or unhappy because not get good pay or paid enough, leave the business, and straight away use the access or the authority that he has and the understanding of the infrastructure of that business and use that to gain good money out of it. And lastly, these guys here, I don't think there is any financial motives behind these guys. These guys are just doing it for fun. Or let's see if I can have a crack at this system. And when they do that, it's like they achieve a degree or a master in something. It satisfies them to some extent that make them do what they do. So what are the... Sorry, is there any question on... so that the director here can answer? Sorry, I was given to present. The answer will direct to the director. Is there any question on the actors or the guys that are doing this?
Is there any difference between thrill seekers and activists?
Thank you for the question, but again, my answer will be based on what I've known so far. It's not the most exact definition or answer to your question, Geek, but I will say these guys may be part of hacktivists. It's just that they are just doing it for fun, but no political agenda behind it. But maybe they do that, and at the same time, I think that's the only answer I can come up with. Can't really differentiate because they do exactly the same thing. Unless...
I think is the financial thing, which is stronger motivation. If they're doing that longer, spending their time, they want to get something out of it. Nobody is interested in getting degree or self-satisfaction. Those times are gone. And 14, 15-year boy hacked the Pentagon's computer, they are different things. They are kind of 10 years back. I think today the major thing is the money. And one thing is these hackers are, they are real experts, they are well trained, educated, they are 2 steps ahead of us.
Any comment there, Director? No?
But they, sorry, if I may, yeah, you're absolutely correct. But sometimes they would move from they might develop a motivation. Let's say for a young kid, he'll be a thrill seeker, right? So he'll download some programs.
They would be hacked Pentagon's computer.
Yes.
That's a big threat.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once they know they have this skill or they know that they can do this, then they figure out some way to maybe get money. And then they'll work for some criminal organization.
Yes?
Is there what's the most threats, type of threats that you've seen in Tonga? Actual ones maybe like department also, or any
The most that we have come across with is the business email compromise, is where they compromise the email system of the organization or the email account, and then they intercept a communication about a bank transfer, and then they tell the business owner in Tonga, oh, we changed bank account, please send the money to this account. They pretend to be the supplier or whoever the business partner overseas. There's quite a lot of those.
happening now?
Happening now. Has been happening now. And
It will continue.
Yeah, and it will continue to happen. In fact, I think we came across one case yesterday that they were planning, they were building up to pull one of those, and hopefully the business owner knows how to not to go through.
You said a case, what was the highest loss, say, that's been experienced in money-wise by a company or ministry through South Africa? Do you have any ideas on that? That you might know of?
Yeah, I can't really remember which one was the most expensive, the most loss through a site attack. I think one of them he will cover one of those cases. Yeah, probably that's one of them. 400,000 for shipment. But I'm not sure if that was the most expensive. There was also he'll cover some of that.
But a couple of 100,000, these cases are quite common.
Yes. Most of the time once they have access to the email system or to the email account, they'll sit there and wait for a big payout, and then that's when they will what would be the word? They will pretend they are the people on the other side, and they will tell you they change the bank account or they make up some excuse. They usually do it on a Friday or before a long weekend, so that when you do the payment, you won't hear from the other people on the other side until next week. And by that time, the money is already gone to the system.
I might as well continue on this while we are on this topic. And I think one of the reasons that I have come across some of business owners is that Tonga is too small for some activities like this to happen. But especially on the business email compromise, Tonga is depending on donor-funded projects, and they deal with government, and that's an easy way to try and get into those ministries or whoever is in control, because those payments to vendors outside is where they can get the money out of Tonga. It's not our money, it's donor-funded money, but they can easily watch every move that we have. We don't know, but they, as the director said, they found a window to jump into our system, and they will sit there for as long as they want until they get the information that they need. And if they see a transaction from an organization to a vendor outside to proceed 100Ks or anything, and that's when they start acting on to get what they want. So we might not have that much money, but there are money going out from Tonga overseas, and they will try and capture whatever they can. So, yes,
but I
please.
guess as well that the business people would have to have, for example, when you read this email,
Yes.
if it's someone that I've been dealing with for a wee while, I would make a call.
Yes.
You know, because it's not common for them to say they are changing the bank accounts or whatever. So that actually needs a red flag. So I think for the whole business sector, they should be educated about you know, what to
Yeah.
look for, because it's obviously very easy for these cyber criminals to pick up. And if you've got someone naive working for you,
Yeah.
easy target, and I think that's who they target.
Yes. It's amazing how they can sit there behind the scene and just watch and learn and study people that behind the computer and the email. Maybe
When
they.
you say that, what do you actually mean? Are they looking at your email, like into your email, or they're actually into your hard disk so they can see what documents you're opening up?
There are different ways of how they can get information without, and then I think we'll talk about that later. But they get into your computer in some malware or whatever the word that everyone is talking about these days, and without you knowing, as I mentioned earlier, this command and control, they extract the information from you without knowing it. So they take the information to wherever their command and control server is, or they intercept emails, or they just watch your email. They access your email system and they just watch and study the communication over the email. So those are ways that there are different ways of how they can get what they want. Either send you an email. I'll go back to send you an email from someone that looks like your boss or an executive for you to open this attachment. And I think this is what they call emotet. And it's, you open it, it's a Word or a PDF file, which is a normal operation that you are familiar with on a day-to-day basis. But the problem there is that they have built something when you open the document that will sit in and they have run some script to automate some tasks that they can run behind the computer and just take the information until they're happy, and all of a sudden your computer is locked out. So, or they just see the email that you're sending or your activity on online banking. So, I hope I have answered the question. I hope I'm not confusing you more. But as I would like to come back to what Liz was talking about. Yes, in this amount of money, and you're a business owner or an organization, especially the business owner in the private sector, sometimes very suspicious when things like this happen, and they do have a process in place, and then make a call. But I think our friend will talk about how to mitigate, and processes of things like this will help avoid a big loss like this. Or they're always suspicious. Oh, this is sort of out of the normal process. I will make a call to confirm. But if you're working in a government ministry or other organization that you don't own the money, oh, fine. Let's proceed so we can get our Apple computer next week, and then the money goes to someone else. And then you'll run around looking for the suppliers. They never get the money. Any other question? I hope I'm not taking the time too long. Director, you can stop me and I'll go have a smoke. I'll come back to the slide of what has happened in Tonga. Defacement. It's pretty much some of these people want to get a message out. Let's say I try to warn Palu Aviation to buy my product or come to my church, and they are not doing anything about it. They ignore me, and all of a sudden they log into their Real Tonga website or paluaviation.to. It's no longer the booking, it's no longer aviation, it shows come to my church. They use this to spread a message, or pretty much it's not for money or so, but they can hack into a website and change how it looks and give you some direction on it to do this or that before you can get your website recovered. Yeah, maybe pay them later to get it restored. Botnet Mirai, I think this word's kind of weird, but it's very tricky, and again, it happened here in Tonga. The Botnet Mirai, they use this malware to get into devices at home or in business. For example, an IP camera, a camera in an office. And they get into this camera, they scan it through the internet. It has default, everything, port, access. And then when they get in, they sort of make this device run some automate task in there and start looking at devices within your network. So they watch you. I mean, they are using this, either your camera or your router at home or a device in your organization, and they will use that to get more information or get devices. And when they do, they can build an infrastructure that we don't know within an organization, and they can use that for an attack. And it happened here. And the team, CERT Tonga, have dealt with it, and I think they closed it down. Phishing emails, of course, a common topic of people posing as a company. I think this is one of the cases that we talked about earlier. Posing as this company, please hold it, we'll do this, or click here and make the changes, because we are upgrading our system, our banking system, so that we are asking all our clients to change all their security, their access for security purposes. But when you click on the link, it takes you to something. Who is the ANZ guy? It takes you for something that looks like an ANZ login page for your online banking. But because you are used to it, you trust that this came from ANZ, you straight away type your credential on the link. But what is highlighted here on the top is not actually ANZ. It's from somewhere, Argentina. And these guys just sit there and watch, oh, this guy's username and password, thank you very much. You change your password, they know. You log out, they transfer your money after. Just by email. They are not coming into your computer, they just come through the email. And this is a pretty image of a coffee machine maker or something, but it's connected to the internet. It's just an example, but some stuff in your organization, for convenience, you plug them to your internet or to your network so you can control. I do that most of the time. So I can go home and still log in, but after this presentation, I'm not going to do that anymore. And for that convenience, they are doing this, but people can access through that and take over. Imagine this is Tonga Water Board. You know, everyone complains because they keep shutting down the water pipe from somewhere. Or Tonga Power, for example. So it can, but us here, we own businesses that doesn't have any infrastructure. So it might or maybe relate to us, but it also happened. The compromised computers, again, some of you are using internet from TCC, and this is all our main provider. They give you an IP address, and those computers that has been compromised, and they have advised CERT, and they are trying to mitigate the risk that these people might face in the future. Again, I think we've talked about this. PAPX, I think some of the organization here in Tonga, they do opt for this service of PAPX, and these are the extension phone line in your office. The old one is the analog one, which is not related to this, but recently it's now in Tonga that PPX are now connecting on the internet. The tricky part here is that when that system is compromised, if I am the person doing this, will make call to anywhere in the world without having any dollar spent on my calls. And poor customer will be paying for this international call. So it is again something that we and our colleague will talk about how to mitigate and avoid this from happening. But it also here, if we do or you do have this, we should be looking at how, if your phone bill are going through the roof this month, we might start looking at, again, we've discussed this, and the scariest part of all of this is ransomware, when your computer is completely locked down that you can't recover or open any file. The only thing that you can see, here is the account number, pay this amount, and we'll restore your computer. Thank you very much. If there is any question, I would like to pass it on to the Director of CERT to answer it all for you. Malo Aupito.
This last has happened here in Tonga?
We haven't really dealt with it as an organization or from CERT perspective, but there has been issues like this. It's not been reported, but I think what I'm trying to say is that customers try to deal with it individually. But it has happened. I have seen this happen. I cannot put names into it, but we try to deal with it ourselves. We didn't know that CERT existed at the time, but they were there.
Did people pay and then they unlocked? Or did they pay and they're not unlocked? If they did not pay anyway?
To that extent, I don't have any client or customer that I know that they've paid, but because I think it's one of the Tongan mentality. Oh, it says we'll try and build the file again. So because they are tired, gave up on trying to recover the file, so they just move on with their life and not report it. So, but I do believe some, and maybe the director can add on to that one, but.
So, yeah, if I could just add on, we haven't, so as Miranda mentioned, we haven't been, they haven't reported one to us, but we have known through our colleagues like Miranda and other ICT guys that it has happened. We haven't had anyone trying to pay the ransomware. I think the most that they've done is just reformat and restore from. Luckily, they had backups, so they told me, but I'm not sure if they did. But our advice, the general advice is not to pay the ransom, because it's not guaranteed that when you pay the ransom, they will give you the key to restore. So that's why when my colleague comes up to do the mitigating activities that you can do, just back up.
Ko kore ke whangai pe e whatapuna si whatapu he kamatanga kai ata mo ka whangamare ke ni ke hoka taipe e mea koni nei ngata ke a Miranda. So as I have mentioned, I'm just a student and I'm just here on the team on a voluntary basis. So this is my first time in front of so many businesswomen and businessmen. So please bear with me. As my professor said, when you're doing a presentation, just imagine they're 4 years old. So by sitting at the back, you guys asking questions make me so much more nervous. So please. So Miranda have talked about the threats. Here's the bad news. Now I'm coming with the good news on the tips on how to mitigate these threats. Ko ki hoko pene ki presentation kon te whai at the kamata pe introduction and mo funky basic security tips. Ko to me foi ko ni me to ta ilo ko ni na tarikita FBI. There are two types of businesses in the world. One that has been hacked and one they will be hacked. So, listening to this presentation, kapau, if you think that you're safe, please do not do that. I do not. Whakau pe, iai pe neongo ke te kiawa ki a koe, ki ho businessi, pe au ka business lahi tongani. But please bear in mind there will be a time your business will be hacked. By that mindset, e iai le whakaukau ia koe ke amaho businessi, ke whai e wha ke taimi. Ko u security tips ko basic bene o ko to mai ke to koni ke te mo to ka pe ko mo ngai business. The first and foremost is physical access control. O ko to o ma afu ne ka kai ni ihi na ngai ap ngawe ai hu atu mo hu mai ka kai ka ngawe mo fa nga ka kai be. But this is really, really important. Even though it's just physical, but it will lead to more problems and leads to the cyber threats that we're talking about. So ai fale ke te moto kanga lahi ke kakai o kuhu atu mohu ki tua me ngai businessi. Make sure that they are the authorized staff. Nga ke oan na hoka mau I loto ki mea CCE, tai tokanga mea CCE e hoko ia whatupunga ha ngai pāpai marahi. Ai aki pēha ngai IT, maro ku ia pēha ngai business i rahi ngā ke IT. Mo whapapau pēku loka ngahi loki ke servers and mea ko ia. Second to that is back up your business data. O ku whema o pito hango refer back he presentation ka marenta ni nai hango ransomware. Whema back ha backup ka feitu u ka pa ku whai ha attack ki business. Ke mate pe nga he mea ke whenga ka ina delete hanga u file me ho computer you still have backup online. I he cloud por whai feitu pe o ku ke pehe ku safe ke backup her files. But this is really important if u devices go ke nga aki ke hookah ki ho network, make sure it's safe and secure. Third, update her antivirus and software. I know most of us sometimes we log into our machines and sometimes pop in I update her antivirus, and some of us we don't have time to do that. We just close it down. But it is really, really important. We recommend that you guys please update your antivirus and also your software. You might be busy doing something else, but the hackers and attackers are also busy creating malwares and viruses to attack your computer. So it is really, really important. It's simple, but really important. Fourth is social networking risk. I know most of us, most of businesses have Facebook pages and Twitter and LinkedIn and everything. But it's really important for people that post stuff, personal stuff on their pages. Whemau e toka ngā ke taimiko ke postai hao umea personal, especially where you're at. Sometimes people are not only have vacation ki muri ha mea ngā we. I put toka ngā taimiko ke postai. Some attackers out there are targeting where you are and where you at. Ke nau whai ha whakaukau ia whai ngā attack ki a koe kai pehe online. Pa mo mea pe taha koe whema taimiko ngā ake when you're putting up emails, especially when you're putting up emails for your work, whemau ke owa te ke hanga ai ha email, ha personal email, like for example your CEO, ke hanga o ituku atu ai name of your CEOs, pa mo na personal email ko he ngā we. It's really risky, and na whakaukau ia kakai ai email ko ai kai whemau pe kapak ha email ha inquiries, ke log in pick out ke owa ke safe pe ai personal people in your business. And also malwares. Whemau peke mo aware a different type of malwares. Malwares are malicious software. Funky po kalama design peke ne kenha mau ai computer he ko virus ko worms. Whemau peke ke aware to taha ko toa pehe ke hangahi respond to tonu ko ke fai ke malwares ko ya. And general policies. Whemau mo businessi ke hamo funky lao IT policies ke mui ke ho ka ngawe ke e te maluangea mo hao me henga he attacks koni na falawat e memorandum. Lastly is security awareness training. It is really important for the IT people and your business people can now aware of the policies that you guys put up. Do not leave anyone behind, because data is the most important asset any business could have. So it is important if awareness has security awareness within your computer. Aware everywhere and here in Tonga. So I've come to the conclusion: a small negligence can create a big loss to your business. I don't know if I pronounced that well. Whemau mapito mo tokanga lahi o mo whanau pe ke ngahi threats koni ko hoko I tongani. Pago keke ko ilo pe ko mo taadma ko nagu mo lota ke mole ha mo paanga ai ha mo system for all mo te kamata for mo businessi kapan ai hack pe attack mo tol. Ai whemau pito mo tokanga mo whai ehi kei taimi. Kapag mui pe ke nga step ko ni ko fangi basic step ne ko atu oku fai ke fangi to kanga he businessi he u businessi kapag mui lele pe ke oku ai afatawangi e ke fuyai ha ngai palpale ma pe he e hoko hange ko ngai attacks na hoko tongani e hoko ke ngai businessi. Thank you for your patience.
Just before we finish, Saya and the team from Tonga CERT, on behalf of all the businesses here in Tonga, we thank you for the work that you do in your work and to taking the time to come and talk with us and let us learn more about what risks actually happening in Tonga. I mean, the stuff we talk about is the stuff that not happening in Fiji or New Zealand or Australia. It's stuff that's happening in Tonga, so it can happen to your business, and that they do have some good ideas, and I think they've said that they can work with us here, and I think Chamber, we will be following up to try and set up something to have a private sector type certificate, but working through CERT. And once again, can we show our appreciation for Saya and his team?
Eu tau whaosi ko kreso tau eko si sukarais parai toga tamai whemera maria manion tu moe ke no foi o mator o nahi whaipotai ngata. Amen.